my legalists and hexicans. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. Welcome to part 1 of my series where I'm going to be looking at HEX and challenging HEX as to whether or not it is a security, because that is a very important part of our function as legalists on this channel. So please subscribe if you'd like more of this content and hit the like button. I would greatly appreciate it. We're going to start off in part 1 of this series by doing a comparison of HEX to Bitcoin. Now, I know a lot of hexicans who are HEX maximalists might typically roll their eyes at this. But I think, and I want us to understand where we're coming from and where we are in this space. If you want to really objectively look at the situation, because I know we all love HEX and we know it's amazing and we love Richard Hart and everything that he's done, right? But the fact of the matter is Bitcoin is the only crypto out there that at the moment has not been, and not for the last couple of years actually, has not been identified by the SEC as a security. Also, we need to keep in mind that Richard Hart is not against Bitcoin, and especially not the objectives and what Bitcoin espouses to. So that's going to be part 1 of the series. My legalists, let's dive right in. So, the revolution of finance, which started with Bitcoin, is based on a triad of 3 principles. They are peer-to-peer, trustless, open source. Those 3 things, which constitute digital immutable currency with no middleman. Okay, so it all started with Bitcoin, and that is what HEX and Richard Hart has taken inspiration from. Now, I went back as far as 2019, where the chairman of the SEC, who was Jay Clayton, he said even back then, he was of the opinion that Bitcoin was not a security. 4 years later, the SEC is saying the same thing. So nothing's changed, and it's remaining silent on all other cryptos, which means Bitcoin presently is actually the strongest and most protected, in the sense of there is general agreement globally that it is not a security. So I just wanted to read the article from the SEC chair, Gensler, about Bitcoin. So this article is from the 27th of June this year. Securities and Exchange Commission Chairman Gary Gensler today reaffirmed the SEC's view that Bitcoin is a commodity, but refrained from extending the label to any other cryptocurrencies in an interview with CNBC. Gensler singled out Bitcoin as an example of a crypto asset that should be regulated under the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, as is done previously, but would not comment on other coins or tokens. Some, like Bitcoin, in quotes, and that's the only one, Jim, I'm going to say, because I'm not going to talk about any one of these tokens. My predecessors and others have said they're a commodity, Gensler said in response to a question from CNBC's Jim Cramer. Gensler added, however, that many other crypto financial assets have the key attributes of a security. noting that the main similarity between the two is the idea that the investing public is hoping for a return. So there we have it. I think for purposes of going forward, Bitcoin is then a very good source of comparing other crypto to, so as to establish whether it is a security or not. I think even with El Salvador accepting Bitcoin as currency has only strengthened that. So I'm going to be looking at a key difference between Bitcoin and HEX, as well as key similarities. So the key difference is that HEX is designed to do what Bitcoin can't do, okay? And that is to replace certificates of deposits. According to the HEX website, CDs are a $7.2 trillion industry, and that is something that Bitcoin can't tap into, okay? On the other hand, Bitcoin can only inflate supply and reward miners, but you can't time lock your Bitcoin. The only way you could earn interest on your Bitcoin is to then move away from decentralization, okay, which is obviously very risky. So, for example, paying somebody else to invest in their mining operation, or like in South Africa, we have Luno, where you deposit your Bitcoin, okay, and then you earn interest. It's a very tiny, small amount of interest. Or even other staking platforms like Celsius and Coinbase. I stand under correction. I'm not sure if they accept Bitcoin as staking per se, but the idea is that on these platforms or these exchanges, you deposit your Bitcoin and in that way you earn a yield or an interest or a return. If you watched my first two videos on my channel, you'll see how risky that is, especially when, like Celsius, they declare bankruptcy. Basically, as per the famous quote of Richard Hart, not your keys, not your coins. Okay, so that is something Bitcoin can't do. Okay, so, and that is something that HEX is designed to do. So HEX is like Bitcoin, but with a proof of work change, and it's designed to tap into certificate of deposits. Okay, so the next question is, now that we understand the fundamental difference between the two, okay, is how is HEX similar to Bitcoin? Because we're relying on Bitcoin as a precedent, okay, for non-security identification. So the core principles of Bitcoin and HEX, okay, is that they both inflate, right? With Bitcoin, the miners mine, and that inflates, it creates more Bitcoin, and from that there's money making. With HEX, there's the APY, the incentive to stake and wait, and in return you get 30% APY. So there's an inflation happening, okay? Now, in order to try and compensate for this, Bitcoin has a hash rate, a mining hash rate, which gets harder over time. It also changes depending on how many people are mining. So if other miners switch off their machines, then you'll get a higher hash rate. HEX is similar because it compensates with that, with the total, for the inflation, right? With the percentage of shares. So each T-share is only going to become more expensive over time, just like the hash rate gets harder. Okay. Also, you can only get more of a T-share by staking for longer. Okay. And then just like in the case where Bitcoin miners switch off and your hash rate goes up, stakers on HEX earn rewards when the stake ends, or perhaps there's a stake that ends too early or ends too late, then there's rewards offered for that. Okay. Now, what can we take out of these fundamental similarities? They are the essence of both projects, and they're both based on code. None of them require a middleman. So with HEX, only you interact with the contract. You do the work to go and stake, okay? Nobody owes you anything. It's just you and the contract. If you do nothing, it's just the code, okay? Same with Bitcoin. It's just the code. It's immutable. So there we have it. When we take that similarity, it supports, and we see how similar HEX is actually to Bitcoin. It's just a proof of work change, but it's basically the same thing, just a different concept, keeping with the principles of peer-to-peer, open source, trustless, no middleman, immutable, okay? Then it supports, when we back it up with the precedent that's being set by Bitcoin, it supports, therefore, an argument, a legal argument, that HEX is also not a security based on that. So then the next obvious question would be whether in the proof of stake, whether there is an element there of now it becoming a security. And that's going to be the second part of my video, which I will be doing tomorrow, the second part of this series. For now, today, I just wanted to focus on Bitcoin, that we understand the difference and similarities between the two. And we also appreciate that we shouldn't be hating on Bitcoin because we can actually use it to our advantage, knowing that Richard Hart took inspiration from Bitcoin. And basically, they're the same. They just work slightly different. So I hope you enjoyed the video today. I hope you found it enlightening. And yeah, please subscribe. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye.